This video is presented by Western and Southern Financial Group, a game plan for your financial future. Every great team starts with a strong foundation, and your future should too. With life insurance built like a championship roster, Western and Southern helps protect what matters most so you can focus on winning today while planning for tomorrow. Whether you're just starting out your journey, building your dynasty, or ready to retire like a champion, Western and Southern has the right play for your life stage. Visit westernsouthern.com to get your free life insurance quote today. Western and Southern, built to win. Sunday Night Football, it is the Chicago Bears versus the Los Angeles Rams. An interesting weather matchup here because Dalton in Chicago, the forecast is calling for single digits, 3 degrees, 2 degrees is what I'm seeing right here. The wind chill could get us into the negatives. Very interesting game, but also specifically interesting in the trenches as well. And for that, we had to get our guy Trevor Armstead back on the show to break down the edge rushers from the Los Angeles Rams going up against an offensive line for Chicago. Let's hear what he had to say. Trevor Armstead back with us here to preview another matchup in the trenches here that we have in the playoffs. Today we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears, specifically what the Bears are going to do against this incredible, strong, explosive, young pass rushing duo that is Byron Young and Jared Verse. Now, Tron, before we get into specifically, I think, what Jared Verse and Byron Young might do in this game, it's interesting for Chicago because on one side they've got Darnell Wright, who I think was playing at a Pro Bowl and All-Pro level this year. So we'll talk about him in a second. But on the other side, no Ozzie Trapillo anymore. He injured his knee. He's not going to be starting for them anymore. But it looks like Theo Benedict might start for them. And he was kind of in that rotation in and out once Braxton Jones got benched at the beginning of the season. Braxton Jones has then been on IR for a little bit with a knee injury, but he is available for them, but it doesn't sound like they're going to go with him at that spot. Just thoughts overall maybe on Braxton Jones specifically. Like, is he the guy with all of his experience that you would go with here, even though he hasn't had experience lately?
Yeah, this is interesting to me, Trev, that Braxton isn't the guy immediately. I think it plays more into his health opposed to his play. He started the year off as a starting left tackle. He played well in my eyes. I felt like he was pretty solid. Trapello played great as when he was implemented at left tackle. Braxton Jones. This Jared Verse matchup is important. This is key in this game because Verse, his ability to be so disruptive, like he can affect every play. If you don't have somebody that can anchor over there, he will affect every single offensive snap for the Chicago Bears. I trust the O-line coach, Dan Rochard. Incredible, one of the best ever, and the job that he's done with this Bears offensive line. So I trust him in his judgment on who's ready and who will give them the best chance to win. I'm just interested to know why Braxton Jones isn't getting that initial nod, and I'll actually do some digging. I'll find out.
Yeah, and obviously we're recording this on a Wednesday, so things can change by the time we get to Sunday night, which, by the way, I do want to ask you about this. Sunday night, the forecast has the temperature in Chicago at like 3 degrees. I've seen with the wind chill, you're getting into the negatives. And so, look, I'm a Florida boy, okay? I'm soft. Anytime we get below 50 degrees, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really... I don't know if I'm feeling outdoor sports today, but obviously you've played in the NFL. You played a lot of high competitive levels of football over the course of your career. I'm sure you've played in a handful of cold games here. So talk to me about what it is like playing in the trenches, having to be so physical when it is that cold. Do you have a specific game that you think of when I'm like, oh man, games that are incredibly cold? Is there one that comes to your mind?
Well, first, I'll start with, I'm from Illinois, not Chicago, but I'm an Illinois boy, and I played in snow games when I was 7, 8 years old. So, been in the cold, no problem. The coldest game I've ever been a part of, coldest environment I've ever stepped foot in, was Kansas City Chiefs playoffs, 2024. It was miserable. It was negative 30 degrees. Wind chill, negative 30. Trevor, when I tell you it was painful, like It was inhumane. We should not have been unfair. Nobody, our side, their side, and this is what made it bad because in the NFL you have heated benches, you got huge space heaters on the sideline, you got these big coats on our sideline against the Kansas City Chiefs, Miami Dolphins. None of our benches worked, so we had 2 space heaters for 90 guys. The benches didn't work. Kansas City didn't have that problem. So people would say, well, the Chiefs played in the same way. Yes, but you don't understand the difference that makes when you are able to unthaw on the bench opposed to just sitting and freezing, which we did. It was miserable. So this Chicago environment can be something similar because of the wind in Chicago. Coming off the lake,
Right.
it's a tough place to play. I've been there several times. I don't miss it at all. I would never go as a fan and sit in the stands. Would never do it. It could play a part. It really can.
No, it can, because there's the stats that, like Matthew Stafford, I can't remember the exact stipulations, but it's something like, he's 1-9 when it's raining, snowy, like just when there's inclement weather, he's not the same type of a quarterback. And it's an interesting point because I remember last year thinking about their playoff run and the fact that they played Philly in Philadelphia, and you remember it was freezing cold, it was snowing in that game, and it went exactly into the way that Philadelphia wanted to play because they were able to just run the ball very well. And I've told people I believe this, not to take anything away from the Eagles in their Super Bowl run last year, but if you play that game even in a neutral site, if they play it in the New Orleans Superdome in a dome, I actually think that the Rams win that game, and I think they can go on to the Super Bowl because I thought they were playing that well. But to your point, the weather might go into that once again. It's not just a Stafford thing. Like, it can affect anybody that isn't used to playing in that kind of weather. So let's go to the other side, though. Last question I want to ask you, though, is about Darnell Wright. Like, when it is good on good, when it's Jared Verse or Byron Young, I think it's going to be more of Byron Young on that side of the line of scrimmage. But whatever that looks like, both of those young edge rushers, who are the second best edge rush duo in the NFL behind only Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, both of those guys win and get so much disruption with their power game. But something I loved about Darnell Wright when he was coming out of Tennessee is that he was also a powerful offensive lineman. And he has manifested, and he has become that in the NFL as well. He is somebody who likes to dictate the contact. He's not sitting here with his hands and always waiting for you to make a move. Sometimes he'll make a move. He'll be the guy who actually initiates the contact. I feel like he deals with power very well. So you and I have talked about this, I think, throughout the course of this year. First thing you always have to do if you're an offensive lineman is stop power. What then? Because I think we believe Darnell Wright has that anchor ability to him. How do you see this chess match going between these two young defensive ends and a really powerful offensive tackle in Darnell Wright?
Yeah, I see this matchup favoring Darnell Wright. No matter the guy, he's in a rhythm. He's seeing all rushes. His balance is great. Hand timing is great. He's comfortable. I don't see him being affected, honestly. And that's not a knock to Verse or Young. Both are incredible young rushers. You're going against a massive man with dancing feet, who's confident, hand placement, hand timing, feet in the ground. It's not really much you can do. So maybe a lot more line games over there. I think they might try to run some TEs and send some different looks on that side. But just one-on-one, Darnell is comfortable. He's in a zone right now. Like he is. I'm watching him every week, and he's locking down. He just was named to the All-Pro team in his young career. So he's balling. I feel great about where Darnell is in this matchup and any other.
When you get an offensive lineman who has great strength but also nimble on their feet and a lot of good athleticism, the scouting term that I've heard is he's a dancing bear, which is very appropriate for this Chicago Bear in Darnell Wright and how well he has been playing. Teron, we appreciate it, my friend. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, so that was Teron's take. Now it's time to get your take, Dalton. What do we got on this game? Where you want to start? You want to start on the Bears side of things or the Rams?
Let's start with that Chicago run game with that offensive line, right? And I think you guys did such a great job of breaking down all of the talent that we're looking at, because this is such a great trench matchup, right? The edge rushers, as well as guys like Poona Ford and Kobe Turner on the inside. But what I'm interested in from Chris Shula and this Rams defense is the schematics of how they're going to go about stopping this Bears run game that's been so elite all season. So, Trev, let me put it to you like this, okay? When the Bears see a four-man front, they're one of the elite top 3 to 5 rushing teams in the NFL, no question. But we've talked about this in their matchups with Green Bay. A little bit of their Week 18 matchup with Detroit was a struggle in the run game as well. And what happens is you get teams putting a fifth defensive lineman down there on the line of scrimmage. You get these flatter looks across the line of scrimmage that are preventing the Bears' offensive linemen from getting to the second level and preventing explosive runs from happening. When the Bears see 5 or more defensive linemen on the field, all right, they are 24th in rushing grade and only 15th in yards per carry. Now, the Rams are not afraid to go to a 5-man defensive front on early downs, and part of the reason, I know this has been a theme for me today about talking about teams that like to get to the edges, but it's also the Rams' way of preventing teams getting to the edges, right? When you have Jared Verse and Byron Young and maybe even Josiah Stewart rotating in there, and they're so wide because they've got those 3 guys in the middle that are clogging things between the tackles, it's hard to break outside of that, right? And then the linebackers can just clean things up, and the Bears offensive linemen are so occupied at the first level that they just can't quite get to that second level. So I think it's going to be very interesting to me to see, one, how often the Rams come out in a 5-man defensive front on first down. 2, how Ben Johnson responds to it. Does he try to run right through it in this cold weather, or are there some first down play action shots that are going to happen early in this game to make them back off, to make them get back into a 4-man front and sit back with 7 in coverage a little bit more that way? And 3, Nate Landman, Omar Speights. Got to be great at linebacker if you're going to slow down this run game, right? Because if they do climb to the second level and they beat your linebackers to the spot, you have a major, major problem with this Bears offense. I want to see if Johnson's going to work backwards or if the cold weather is going to prevent him from doing that and he feels like he's going to have to go in there and just punch the wall a little bit. But that's what I'm looking for. I think early in this game, keep an eye on the Rams defensive line and whether they're going with a 4-man front or a 5-man front.
I think specifically, this game probably comes down to those 2 linebackers, Omar Speights and Nate Landman. I'll throw Quentin Lake in there as well, because what I want to talk about with the Bears passing game is very simple. Who covers Colston Loveland? Because Ben Johnson offense is more complex than that. They've got more receivers to be able to throw the ball to. They can go a lot of different ways. But if you can't stop Colston Loveland, what we've seen over the last 3 weeks is that you're not going to have a lot of fun when this Bears offense is on the field. 15 targets, 8 catches, 137 receiving yards, and 6 first downs from Colston Loveland last week. Quentin Lake, for the Rams, he was back last week after injury. It was his first game back. 11 targets, 8 catches, 94 receiving yards allowed against the Carolina Panthers. And so I don't know if it's going to be mostly Quentin Lake that's going to get matched up with Colston Loveland. Maybe it will be one of those linebackers. Cam Curl has been in that mix as well, but I don't care who it is. Somebody has to slow down Colston Loveland more than he was slowed down last week against the Packers, because he is just such a key part of this Bears passing attack. And those 6 first downs just show you how often they want to go to him and how often he delivers. So that is the big matchup for me, is amongst all the Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams talk and all of that. Like, if you can't cover Colston Loveland at this point, I have a feeling the Bears are going to just move the ball at will, at least if Caleb is as accurate as he needs to be. So that is job number 1, I think, for the Rams. And you mentioned the linebackers already have a big job in front of them because they've got to be able to handle their business in the Bears run game as well. So this one might come down to just, do the Rams have it at linebacker? We will see. When it comes to the Rams running game, outside zone for this team, 83.1 rushing grade on outside zone. That is what they were fantastic at last week. They were great at running behind Alaric Jackson. They were great at doing what they needed to do to get to the outside and make Carolina's linebackers and defensive backs flow and make tackles. I feel like that this team, where they don't run as much outside zone as they used to under Sean McVay, they can still go to it and have a lot of success. And I think that they'll have the ability to once again stress out the Bears, in the same way, secondary players to come up and rally and tackle, and you're asking a hurt and beat up linebacker group to also be able to step up in a big way. So there was a little bit more outside zone rushing than what we've been used to seeing over the last couple of years with this Rams offense. I expect that to continue. I think they're going to continue to try to stretch the field horizontally in the run game. Dalton, what do you think about the pass game for this team?
Real quick, too, a big part of that run game is that Sean McVay feels good about Kevin Dotson's chances of returning at right guard after missing the last 3 games due to injury. Even for their outside zone or for their duo games straight ahead, that would be a massive boost to their offensive line. You can just tell it's a different operation when he's out there on the inside. In the passing game, look, I'll be honest with you, the Bears have to find any way possible to disrupt Matthew Stafford in the pocket, right? He's been the best quarterback in football this year because he's been the best quarterback in clean pockets this year. Trevor, a 95.7 passing grade in a clean pocket. And usually the clean pocket grades are obviously jacked up a bit because that's the ideal scenario for a quarterback there, to be in a clean pocket and to be able to just execute and make throws. But that's elite stuff, man. I mean, that's just ridiculous. 37 big-time throws, 11 turnover-worthy plays. Certainly Stafford is a gunslinger still, and he wants to wing it downfield, but this is a real problem. The Bears are going to have to find a way to disrupt Stafford, right? But they're only 26 in pass rush grade. They have the 5th lowest pressure rate in the league, and Dennis Allen hasn't been quite as aggressive as in past years that we're used to seeing with the blitzing. He blitzes this year at about a league average rate. He's going to have to make a decision as to whether he's going to come after Stafford on passing downs or if he's going to just send for Montez Sweat and that Austin Booker and that defensive line. How is he going to go about it, right? I think there were times he tried to mix it up on Jordan Love last week. It wasn't always pretty, but they got the job done in the second half, and the Panthers bothered Stafford a bit, blitzing him at a 40% rate. I'd be curious to see if Allen brings that same approach or if he wants to sit back and try to prevent big plays in coverage. But either way, if you don't get to Stafford, as always, he's going to hurt you. I know it's cold weather. I know he's had struggles there in the past, but you still have to find a way to disturb him in the pocket, or McVay and Stafford are going to just absolutely kill you on the back end.
If this game was played even on a neutral field somewhere else that's not Chicago, I'm probably taking the Rams in this game. But because of the weather, I'm going to take the Bears. I'm going to take the Bears to win 24-23, sort of that coward score that we have predicted sometimes throughout the course of this season. But I think weather plays I think weather will play into what the Bears want to do and just their mentality and how they want to play. And Matthew Stafford has struggled in the cold. I was saying this to Tehran, that I think that if last year, not to take anything away from the Philadelphia Eagles and their Super Bowl run, if that game, Rams versus Eagles last year, was played anywhere on a neutral field that wasn't in Philly that weekend where it was that snow game, I think the Rams win. And I think that if this game was not in Chicago, I think the Rams win. But luckily for Bears fans, it is in Chicago. And instead, I think that Chicago wins this one.
I'm taking the Rams. I'm going the other way. I know there's a lot of doubts about Stafford in cold weather, but you got to remember the Rams can really run the football too now. I think Kyron Williams, who did make a big mistake with the fumble in that Eagles game last year, Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, they're going to play a huge factor in this game. I do think Stafford's going to make enough throws. You've got Puka Nacua, you've got Devontae Adams, all the tight ends, and you got 2 of the most creative offensive minds in the league, which is going to be so much fun to watch. And it's going to be a matter of which defense steps up. The Bears have really struggled at all 3 levels when they're not getting turnovers. The Rams secondary has really struggled the last month and a half, and if you're going to put the Bears away, you do have to play all 60 minutes with those 7 last 2-minute comebacks that they have this season. Bears also have injuries of their own on defense, so TJ Edwards done for the year. Andrew Billings is questionable in the middle of that defensive line. You just wonder how much more their defense can take between the injuries and just, look, they're getting in a lot of these shootouts, man. At some point, it gets hard to win those, right? So I know Soldier Field's going to be rocking. I know it's going to be cold. Those are ideal conditions, really, when you're playing against Matthew Stafford. But I think I've always felt like we're going to be destined to get Seahawks-Rams round 3, so I'm going with it. Rams 27, Bears 24.
Like I said, if it was anywhere else, I'd probably take the Rams. But it's not anywhere else. And so I'm buying a little bit. With a game that has just 2 brilliant head coaches, Give me the one that I think can deal with the weather a little bit more, because I do think that it's going to be a little bit of a factor here.
Everyone's got takes. Numbers have truth. And the truth is, most people are betting with emotion. Sportsbooks feed on it. TikTok gurus sell it. The hype machine runs on it. That's how you lose. PFF is different. You're betting with winning data. The same data trusted by all 32 NFL teams and the sharpest minds in the game. PFF betting tools take every prop, every matchup, every angle, and run them through our custom models. Built on the best football data in the world. What comes back is your edge. Simple, sharp, and built to win. Want to go deeper? PFF puts a pro-level analytics department in your hands, giving you the same insights teams use to find every advantage. Build your game plan with matchup analysis. Project every snap, every matchup, and every edge before kickoff. Because the smartest plays start long before Sunday. Hit rates show how a player performs against their prop and against defenses built the same way. It's the data that gives you real confidence in every pick. Next, Key Insights translates PFF data into the story behind every matchup, giving you the why that powers your bets. From coverage schemes to defensive looks, it's the context that turns raw numbers into winning decisions. When you're ready to take action, filter through every prop on the market and focus on the opportunities that matter, by game, matchup, or value. Then, shop for the best available line in your area and tap your book of choice to place the bet instantly. Everyone's got takes, but now you've got truth. Bet with data, win with PFF.